Okay, so I'd like to welcome Sean Collinsgru from Premier Outdoor Living. Hey, Sean, how's it going?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you for taking the time out to come on to the podcast. I do
Yeah.
appreciate that as well. So maybe tell us a bit about yourself and your business.
I'm based out of New Jersey, and we basically just build unique outdoor living spaces. I started out on the lawn care side of things
Okay.
and doing mulch and landscaping. And over the years, about 5 years ago, made the switch into just the design build stuff. And that's kind of where we're at now.
Okay. So you talked a bit about the, we'll get into the hardscaping stuff
Yeah.
and the design stuff with the lawn care side of it that you started out. What first attracted you to the lawn care business and then ultimately made you sort of decide that, that's not for you and you want to go
Yeah.
to the other
So I
side?
started out in it. I was probably about 22. I'd worked with some landscapers before, some doing lawn maintenance, some doing more gardening type of stuff. And I was going to school at the time, and I just kind of I knew that that wasn't for me.
Okay.
So it was just kind of the easiest transition to kind of make some money. I was familiar with, you know, how to cut and edge and blow and maintain a lawn and how to do mulch and stuff. So that was kind of like the easiest buy-in.
Okay.
Just started with a push mower and weed whacker and blower and started trying to get some clients. And that's kind of how it started.
Okay. So, and you did that for a bit, but then
Yeah.
you transitioned into more elaborate projects and stuff rather than the
Yeah.
regular like maintenance stuff. So, what got you into that transition? Because it's obviously a thing you see quite a lot from guys that will
Yeah.
start out in lawn care, and then most will dabble in that
Mhm.
other side of it and still stay in the lawn care. But you went like full right in.
Yeah, yeah. So there was a couple of reasons for that. What drew me to the design build stuff was the creativity. Just doing these unique projects. Really, I had a passion for that. I realized,
Okay.
and on the lawn care side, I kind of realized pretty quickly as I was getting more clients that you really have to be super organized
Mhm.
to make it doing lawn maintenance and lawn care and keep up with the billing and make sure that you're sending a bill to all your clients every month
Yes.
and making sure that they're paying you at the end of the month. And that part I realized I was really just not good at, and
Okay.
I wasn't going to be able to like scale that successfully because I'm not a super numbers driven guy. I'm more just the kind of wing it creative
Okay.
type of
Yeah.
personality. So I had the opportunity to work on a design build project with a designer,
Okay.
and we did a deck and a patio, and it was just really a cool project. Really sparked my interest, and it kind of opened my eyes that these type of clients are out there that want this kind of unique project and unique experience dealing with somebody that's kind of more of a designer,
Mm.
that's going to do unique stuff and not just run of the mill. So that's what kind of triggered me to say, okay, I'm going to just get rid of all the lawn stuff, which was
Okay.
scary at
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
But I just knew long term that I didn't really have the skills to scale that side of it.
Okay.
So I just gave away the accounts and sold the equipment, and just kind of jumped right into the design build stuff.
Okay. Awesome. So when you were doing the lawn care side of it, did you have employees or were you just a one man operation?
So I started out just by myself,
Okay.
like I said, with a push mower and a pickup truck, pretty basic, and then hired one employee, and then I would have
Okay.
somebody part-time here and there. We usually cut lawns like 2 days a week at the end of the week, so I'd usually bring a third guy in for those days. The other days were more installs or cleanups or just, run-of-the-mill stuff. So it was starting to grow a little bit, but it was still really small. And that's once I started bringing on kind of more help, even for those couple days where we were just cutting lawns. Once I broke it down, I kind of realized a lot of the clients I wasn't charging enough, um, and we just weren't efficient enough to make a whole lot of money. So it
Okay.
was like the more lawns I got, the less money I was making, like
Mm.
margin wise. So that's kind of what started the process of thinking, okay, I need to find something else that I'm going to be a little bit more efficient at.
Okay. So with those the employees that you did have, when you transitioned, did you
Mhm.
bring them along with you and transition them into those bigger projects, or did you have to
Yeah.
find a whole new crew?
Yeah. So the one employee that I had full time just kind of made the transition with me. The other help that I was getting was kind of just friends
Okay.
here and there that were looking for a couple days of work. So for the most part, it was just me and my one employee, and it was kind of cool because we had a really low overhead. So we didn't have to like rush through projects to learn, and I was really learning a lot as I was going.
Hmm.
So he was learning right with me, so we kind of like just learned together
Okay.
and just kind of jumped into it. And having that low overhead in the beginning really helped out, being able to take extra time on a project. And if you realize, oh, I messed this part up, we gotta we gotta backtrack a little bit.
Hmm.
We had that flexibility because we didn't have loans out for equipment or anything like that, so that made it a little bit easier.
Okay. So you mentioned kind of like learning on the job there. So
Yep.
was it all sort of self-taught, or
um
was there any training, formal training involved when you made that transition?
No formal training. My dad actually owns a construction company, so he does more interior stuff. So I was a little bit familiar with just the tools and that kind of stuff. I didn't work with him a whole lot, so I didn't have a whole lot of skills, but
Mhm.
I knew all the tools. I was familiar with different materials and stuff. So that part came a little bit easier to me, and I could always call him up if I had questions on something, which was helpful. On the hardscape side, patios and walls, I really didn't have any experience whatsoever, and just kind of started by looking at, reading through the Techo Block installation guides,
Okay.
just trying to find as many YouTube videos as I can, and just pick up like little tidbits from each one, um, and just kind of knowing, hey, this is going to take longer than it takes an experienced crew, and we're
Hmm.
willing to kind of sacrifice the time now, because we're really learning on the job. So
Yeah.
with that attitude, it kind of worked out nicely.
Okay. So, was there any, because when I think of, obviously everybody's personalities and things are going to be different. With
Yeah.
me, my attention span is like tiny. It's brutal.
Yep.
So for me, doing small residential lawns is perfect because
Yep.
I'm out in the truck, off to the next adventure.
Yep.
With any sort of project or anything that takes longer than even a few hours, I start to
Yeah.
just go like I'd rather get go to the dentist
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
thing. So did you have any issues transitioning? Because obviously going from lawn care to these projects that you're doing now
Yeah.
is a huge difference there.
It's kind of a little bit of both because I also have a very, very poor attention span.
Hmm.
So, but it's when I'm outside and I'm working on a project that I'm really excited about,
Hmm.
I'm able to kind of channel that a little bit. It was
Okay.
more, I was having trouble with all the paperwork and all that kind of stuff with the lawn care, but I did love just going in, cutting a lawn, jumping in the truck, go to the next one, instant
Hmm.
gratification. So that was
Yes, yes.
something that I kind of miss about it, but I just knew at the stage I was at, especially, like I couldn't try to do both at the same time.
Hmm.
But it was definitely an adjustment at first, but I was able to kind of keep my attention because I was so excited and passionate about just creating something unique that
Hmm.
kind of worked out. And it really helped me to kind of think I only need to work for maybe 10 or 12 clients a year,
Hmm.
and that part is a lot more simplified. Whereas before, I only had about 40 accounts, but I was billing 40 people a month,
Yes.
and that was the part I was really not good at
Okay.
and really didn't like. So
Hmm.
um but it was still a little bit of a struggle, kind of going into that
Long term
totally different
projects.
style of a project.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned there that needing only about 10 or 12 clients in a year. So obviously, the projects that you're doing are much larger in scope,
Mhm.
or just a lot more detailed or higher end than your average, because you can get into obviously doing hardscape and and small landscape projects that are not going to be that you're going to need more than
Yeah.
12 clients to do
Yep.
for your income. So obviously if you're only using, doing that, then so how did you and it's that's absolutely awesome, because you're creating a niche for yourself in those where you're not having to be in the rat race against everybody else who's out
Yeah.
there, and all of a sudden they're a landscaper or
Yeah.
that sort of thing. You're really creating that. So what was your thought process behind that? And when you first, like you said, um, you had no training, you didn't know. So how did
Yeah.
you have the uh, you know tenacity, or the gumption to say, this is what I'm doing, like I'm going for
Yeah.
the top end of this?
Well, a couple things. One thing that really benefited me a lot in the beginning was I didn't think it through that much. I just kind of decided I really like this. This is
Yeah.
fun. Enjoy this. And kind of like as soon as we finished that one project, like maybe 2 weeks later, I got rid of all my lawn clients, sold all my
Wow.
lawn equipment, and this was in about like beginning of September. So it was
Oh.
right kind of in the middle of the season. Um, but that's kind of what got me into it initially. And then my plan was really, because I didn't have a reputation, I didn't have a lot of experience or skills necessarily. I think I had a lot of the creativity part. That's the part that kind of came a little bit easier to me. So I knew that I was going to have to kind of build a portfolio and establish my reputation and my brand in my local market. And I wasn't going to be able to just go out and start charging, what the project might be worth initially, because nobody knew who I was. So the first 2 years, I kind of said to myself, I'm not going to think about the money, and
Mm.
I'm just going to look for clients that let me get creative and kind of see the vision of, wanting something different. And I'm just going to try to do as much as possible and really just look at it for those portfolio pictures.
Okay.
And even though in the beginning I'm not making a whole lot of money, we're getting great pictures. And, if you follow us on Facebook or Instagram at that time, it looks like we're already pretty successful, even though
Mhm.
I was making pennies on those first
Right.
projects. I was getting the good pictures, and online I was kind of developing a reputation in my local market. And within like a year and a half, 2 years, it really kind of took on a life of its own. And I realized that it was a very niche thing that we were doing with the decks and patios. And there was a lot of demand for it.
Hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. Absolutely great points there. You actually reminded me, you took me way back to like high school, when the internet was just, a sort of a vision of
Yeah.
things that were happening. And one of the teachers, I remember him saying, talking about it, saying, you don't understand, like the internet as a business owner can put you on the same level as anybody else. You
Yeah.
may be, as a single, owner operator of a business, you can't afford the Home Depot 130,000 square feet storefront, but
Yep.
online you can be just the same.
Yeah.
Right. So like you were saying there, putting those projects out, and that you already looked like you were um, you know uh, the
Yeah.
guy, the company that was making the dough and doing it, when you're just making pennies on
Yeah.
those projects. So yeah, absolutely awesome. The power of social media and
For
internet, and
sure.
how it can take your business to that level. So over the course of that time, obviously there must have been some growing pains with trying to attract those customers. So did you have a um, like, how would you approach somebody coming up to you, and initially, because it's the same issue with lawn care, is guys starting out are will take anything and everything that comes their way,
Yeah.
and they'll underbid, and they'll do all that sort of stuff. So how did you approach that part of it, of going, because you said you sold all your lawn care equipment, there's no turning back.
Yep.
If somebody were to come up to you and say, I've got 2 grand, what can you
Yeah.
do for me,
Yeah.
that sort of thing, right?
So I basically just looked at it from like what kind of like pictures was I going to get from it. So
Mhm.
I would turn down jobs that people just wanted like a 12 by 12 patio, and they were totally against doing anything unique.
Mm.
And even though I could have maybe made more money on that because it was very simple, I decided to kind of like walk away from those clients and instead try to find clients that, you know, even if they didn't necessarily have the budget that, you know, the project kind of needed,
Mhm.
I would sacrifice my time and my profits initially to
Okay.
work with that person that had like that trusted in the vision that I
Okay.
had for the space. So that was really hard to do initially, like,
Mhm.
you know, when there was no prospects for projects and there was really no demand whatsoever for for anything that we were doing. I was still turning down projects that were just kind of basic and simple because I knew that wasn't part of our long-term plan. And you know, those simple, just cookie cutter projects were just going to lead to more of those simple cookie cutter projects.
Mhm.
So by turning those down when I didn't have a lot of work, it kind of like forced me to get creative with how I was marketing it. And, you know, it's really put the pressure on, like, okay, I just turned down this job and I don't have anything lined up. I need to get creative and figure out how I'm going to make this happen. Or the business isn't going to work. So,
Mhm.
kind of put myself in those positions, and it just kind of forced me to come up with some creative ways to find clients that were looking for this unique product.
Okay. So now that you've been doing it for a while, and you're obviously uh, having the Instagram and the photos and all that stuff is obviously going to help attract the right client,
Hmm.
because somebody with a $2,000 budget is not going to look at those photos and go, oh yeah, that's what I can
Yeah.
expect, right? So, but how do you go about now qualifying um, the right client
Yeah.
for those types of projects?
So that's something that's always evolving for me, because it's probably like my biggest struggle is because we're very small. You know, it's only four of us.
Hmm.
So now that I'm making YouTube videos and, you know, all the content we're doing for Instagram, I really have to be on site all day. So I was spending a lot of time just driving around, meeting with whoever called, and I was just wasting so much time. So that's when I kind of realized I need to start putting in some sort of process to eliminate tire kickers and the
Hmm.
people that aren't serious. So on our website, it says that our projects start around 30,000. That's kind of like a good spot to start with us.
Okay.
And since we only need, like, now we're doing maybe like 15 to 18 projects a year.
Okay.
Um, you know, we don't need like a whole lot of volume. We just need to find those 12 to 15 people or 12 to 18 people that really want what we're providing. And by just consistently uploading pictures of kind of cool, unique work that we do, um, it kind of helps to build the brand, and it attracts people that are looking for that unique, custom, one of a kind project, and it pushes away people that are just looking for something simple, low budget, which is fine. You know, if that's all they can afford or that's what they're looking for and they just want something simple, and they do call me, I'll refer them to somebody else that, you know, is still going to do a quality job, and, you know, they'll be able to get something at a lower price point. So it's always evolving, but it's mostly the type of content that we put out on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and all that. And just being upfront that the projects typically start around 30,000,
Okay.
and it's going to be a $500 design fee. If you
Okay.
decide to, you know, you want a price from us, we got to design it first. So all those together are working pretty good, but it's still something that I'm reevaluating, kind of tinkering with, and
Hmm.
trying to figure out like the perfect way to just get only talk to those 18 people a year, and that's it. And but you know, it's evolving.
Okay. So are you doing at this point? There's actually a couple things I want to touch
Yeah.
on from your answer there. But are you doing anything besides the Facebook and Instagram stuff as far as formal advertising? Are you paying for ads? Are you doing that sort of stuff, or is it just all organic sort of traffic that you're getting?
So it's a little bit of, I try to kind of spread it out through Facebook, both my personal and my business page on there. Instagram, LinkedIn, which has been really great in the past like year or so for me. Then we also do YouTube, but that's kind of more geared towards other contractors, not so much homeowners. I'm doing a little bit of advertising on Instagram, but that's pretty much it right now. And most of our leads are coming through either Instagram or Facebook. And I was doing paid ads on Facebook initially, and they worked really well. But we've kind of developed enough demand, and we're not trying to scale volume too much, so we haven't needed to advertise a whole lot locally. And it kind of takes some time to develop that organic kind of momentum on any of the platforms. So we're kind of there now, where it's generating a good amount of leads for us, and you know, it's working out well so far.
Awesome. So do you have an actual waiting list for clients, and how do you go about this? Actually leads right into one of the things I wanted to touch on from your previous answer,
Yep.
is like a pricing structure. So if a client
Mhm.
is signing up with you and it's a project that you want to take on, how you go about scheduling that, and do you take a deposit on the work, or how's that
Mhm.
all work?
So we're kind of in the process of that portion right now, because we're booked out till about July.
Okay.
And that kind of helps us pre-qualify our clients, because if somebody's willing to wait till July and I
Mm-hmm.
talk to them on the phone, they say, okay, that's no problem, they're probably going to be a pretty good client. But most of the people want it right now. So it kind of automatically eliminates them from our lead system, I guess.
Mm,
And so that's kind of where we start to eliminate some people by just the timeline. And then we tell them what the projects typically range, like I said, starting around 30,000 usually. And then if that sounds good to them, I'll go out, meet with them in person. We'll talk about some ideas. Once we're in the backyard and we're looking at it, I'll listen to what they're looking for. I'll do my input. And then based on all of that, I can start saying, okay, yeah, we can do something really cool here for 30,000. Or if they're looking for outdoor kitchen and pergola and, all that kind of stuff, I can say, okay, you're looking at more like 50,000.
mm-hmm.
And I'll show them pictures from our Instagram of previous projects and say, okay, this one was 30,000. This one was 60,000. And they can kind of see what you're getting at those budget points. So what I like to do before I take the $500 design fee is figure out a budget that they're comfortable with and a scope of work. So I'll say, for all these things you're talking about, you're looking at about 50,000. But you kind of pick what it's going to cost. If you want me to just draw this up and then price it out,
Mm-hmm.
I can do that. But I'm not sure what it's going to cost. Or we can pick a number that you're comfortable with that you can spend right now, and I can design up to that number,
Okay.
because we're going to kind of create something custom here. That's the best way to go about it. So they
Mm-hmm.
already know what it's going to cost them. They know what type of work we do. So if that's how they want to go about it, it works out really great. And we sell probably like 75% of those designs.
Okay. So that's obviously a big chunk of change, which obviously involves a lot of products and materials that
Mm-hmm.
guys in the lawn care industry obviously wouldn't be as familiar with. So we always hear about the crazy stories of guys not getting paid, and we've seen those viral videos
Yeah.
on YouTube of guys going in the middle of the night and ripping out pavestone driveways and
Yep.
stuff, and loading them back up and taking them away and stuff. So
Yep.
how do you structure your pricing and payment sort of system so that
Yeah.
you're protecting yourself but still giving obviously that cash flow to be able to buy the materials and
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah. That's a really good question, because the type of projects that we do, it's very, very labor intensive, and there's a ton of products that you have to pay for. So
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of guys they'll do like a 50% when the day they start, and then 50% at the end. And at that point, you're waiting on all your profit and a ton of your costs till it's already over. So what we do is, because it's a lot of times a long wait for us to get to your project, it's 10% down to get on our schedule.
Okay.
That kind of locks you into a spot, and it keeps people from saying, yeah, I'll do a project. And then as soon as somebody else comes along that can do it sooner, they walk.
Yeah, yeah.
So that helps kind of keep people in the queue. And then it's 50% 2 weeks before we start. And then for like a 2 week project, we'll do a 30% payment about halfway through. Um, and then there's only 10% at the end minus the $500 design fee that they already paid.
Okay.
So we're only collecting less than 10% at the very end. And like halfway through the project, we've collected 90% of it. So
Hmm.
that's something that we haven't really received any pushback from too much, but I think it's because we've really established our brand. We're
Yeah.
very transparent on Instagram. We're very visible. So,
Hmm.
it doesn't, people aren't necessarily scared that we're going to just
Hmm.
like disappear.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, yeah.
that can be an issue if you don't have a website, if you don't have social media,
Yeah, yeah.
so I think we've built that trust and it's worked out really good, but that's definitely important because contractors are not banks. We're not here to lend
Yes.
lend capital to our clients and then wait to collect it at the end. So that's really important. And it's something that I think people should think about right from the beginning, because if you do one of those projects and you get stiffed by a customer and you're waiting for 50% on certain projects, that could put you out of business.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and for lawn care uh, guys that are, maybe trying to relate with that, um, you talked about having that Instagram and stuff like that. It gives that customer the trust. They see
Mm-hmm.
they know what to expect. You can, as a lawn care uh, provider, you can do the same, and also having a professional image and nice trucks. And I've told the story on the podcast in the past about a client I went to go quote, and talked to her, gave her a quote. She said, yeah. And I said, okay, I just need a credit card because I just do everything's credit card on file.
Yep.
And she pulls out her credit card and she's literally handing to me, and she stops and she goes, this is crazy. I've only known you for 5 minutes and I'm giving you my credit card number.
Yep.
But then she goes, but I can tell by the way your uniforms and your truck and trailer that you're not going anywhere and
Yep.
stuff, right? And it's like that trust is instilled there, whether it's your appearance or having that track record on social
Definitely.
media and all that.
Yep.
So you mentioned a $500 design fee, and the different points in which you collect your payment. I didn't hear anything about a sort of come out and estimate fee. A lot of guys will be like, I'm not
Yep.
heading over there to waste my time if you're not, sort of thing, as another way to qualify
Yeah.
serious clients. So why isn't it that you don't do that?
So there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, we try to kind of weed out all the tire kickers as good as possible through, our marketing online and our website and the phone consultation that I do with them when they finally go through all those steps. So most of the time that I'm actually going to a client's house, it's a very good lead. And I just kind of felt like, and it's something I might implement in the future, but I kind of felt like it could scare away good leads. And other times that, I go out to a property and finally meet the people, everything kind of looked good initially, but once I get there, I realized that this isn't really in our scope. This isn't going to be a good project for us. So, if they had already paid, say, $100 or $250 for that consult, and they've paid online or something, and I get there and I say, what, this isn't actually like a project that we're looking to do. They could be kind of ticked off at you.
Yeah, yeah,
So it gives me the flexibility that, because we're also very selective with the type of clients that we work with. So as much as they're kind of interviewing us, I'm feeling them out. So I don't like to charge for that, because then you feel like you kind of have to do a design if they want one. You have to, bid the project. And a lot of times, we go to a client's house and it's like, this isn't exactly what we specialize in. It's close, but not exactly. And that's where I'd like to just refer them to somebody else and kind of get on with it. So
okay.
it's something I might do in the future. I know a lot of guys are starting to do that, but I haven't quite figured out whether it works for us.
Okay. um yeah, the other thing I wanted to touch on, from that answer previously, you just actually mentioned again, and that is referring customers that aren't right to you to other guys. So, do you have a uh, say a group of businesses that you work with, and how do you protect yourself and your reputation um, by referring to somebody else,
Yeah.
that client? Because if something goes sideways, then that customer is going to be like, well, I didn't know about this
Yeah.
guy in the first place until Sean told me about it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
how do you protect yourself in that respect?
So I think the biggest thing there is I don't like, some people will charge people like a finder's fee, like, hey, I
Mhm.
recommended you, so I want 10% or $500 or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
I just, good, honest contractors that are local to me that I meet, I'm happy to refer them if it's something like, there's a concrete guy that I don't work with, but anytime that somebody kind of comes to us and they think they want pavers, but their budget is really more of like a concrete budget, I say, all right, call my friend Cedric. He's awesome. He's very honest, does good work, and he'll take care of you. And it's a little bit less, people referring me to other people, because um, we really do such a specialty type of project. But I found that just by looking at other people's Facebook and Google profiles, that a lot of times bad reviews aren't somebody that you actually did work for and it went south. A lot of times it's somebody that, like, you didn't call back, or they felt like you were rude or arrogant at a meeting. So anytime that I can, I try to say, if we're going to turn down a job or anything like that, I try to explain why it's not right for us, not in a way that's arrogant or
Mhm.
anything like that, and then refer them to somebody that's really good, and will take care of them, and really is kind of suited more to what they're looking for. So
Mhm.
that's something I've been very conscious of, trying not to get bad reviews, because a lot of time it's just you missed an appointment, or you didn't call
Yeah.
somebody back, or something like that. um, and that can kind of hurt your reputation, even if you didn't work with the person.
Mhm. Absolutely. Um, yeah, it's very apparent talking to you that obviously the creativity side is what drives you with these projects, and it's an important and lesson, because you talk about having the right client that's going to allow you to do that. And I think a lot of guys forget that you know why did you go into business for yourself? It's to be your own boss, and having clients dictate what you're doing and what you're not doing on projects that you don't like, or lawns
Yeah.
you don't like to mow, and
Yeah.
things like that can kill that dream really, really fast. And learning to say no is
Yeah.
just as important as picking up work to keep yourself fulfilled in it.
Definitely.
Because I think a lot of guys will quickly find that money doesn't solve all the answers in life.
Yep. Yep.
So this leads to my next question, and it's one of my favorite ones that I ask everybody. And because when I ask it to a uh, non um, self-employed person, somebody that has a 9 to 5 job, the
Yep.
answer is usually the same. But when I ask it to a self-employed person, the answer is always different. And
Yep.
that is, how would you define success?
That's a good question. I think really it's just kind of like being the master of your own destiny, and being in control. You're not at the mercy of like a boss or a corporation or something that could just have a random layoff and you're gone. You're really like in control of where your life's going.
Mhm.
Um and really just, I guess, feeling fulfilled and enjoying what you do is being successful, because you can make a lot of money, and if you're not really enjoying what you're doing, it's kind of like a means to an end. And we spend so much time working that you might as well love it and enjoy it and be passionate about it and look forward to projects and everything. So that's what I would think is successful. But um I don't know. I'm sure that answer will change in a couple of years. I haven't been doing it that long, but
Mhm.
just kind of being my own boss, and um getting
Okay.
to control where I go it makes me feel like I'm successful right now.
Okay. So one of the most common questions that I get in my business, because it's a lawn care business, I'm on the west coast of Canada,
Yeah.
and we do get some snow. We get a ton of rain here all year long, and customers are always asking me, "What do you do in the winter?" So
Yeah.
in your business there in New Jersey, do you guys have an off season in the winter, or are you able to do those projects throughout the year?
So that's funny because I think every landscaper, like, that's literally the first thing anybody asks me when they hear what I do. It's like, oh, what do you do in the winter?
Yeah, yeah.
So it does snow here, but like this year it's been really, really mild. It's probably like 55 degrees out right now. But we still take some time off. Typically it's like I'd say 6 to 10 weeks each year. Some winters, we might get snow in December, and we might have a little bit of a longer time off. So I kind of structure our pricing and our overhead based on like 9 month season, and
Okay.
then anything above that is great. If we can keep working, but even mild years like this where it hasn't snowed at all yet, um, I still find it's important to like take that mental break, give the guys off, and just like reset because
Mm.
when you take time and like step back away from the daily grind, you kind of like see the bigger picture and you're able to make changes that make those 9 months or 10 months that you are working a lot more profitable
Mhm.
because you kind of saw, from a bigger picture, like what problems your business has and how you can improve it.
Mhm. So do you go through any ups and downs in your business in respect to, like, most lawn care guys, and myself included, will be like, this time of year, it's February. Right now I'm looking at a monitor that's showing my security cameras outside. The sun is shining, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I can't wait to get back on those mowers, start mowing.
Yeah.
But then by October, I'm like, oh God,
Oh,
when's it
yeah.
gonna end? Right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm
Oh,
so tired. I
100%.
need the time off.
And I think that's like almost any business owner. It's just like so emotional that, like, right now we're booked out till July, but which is great for me. But if I don't get, 5 more calls this week, I might start stressing out, and then you get one call and it's like, oh, everything's good again. So
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's just like the nature of the business. And it's definitely like you said, every year. Like, I mean, right now I'm like super excited. I'm planning all of our projects, really getting like all the details figured out. But by especially last year, we didn't finish till into January, which we're usually finished before Christmas. I was like crawling to the finish line, just waiting
Mhm.
for some time off to like rest and reset.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like a daily thing. One day you feel like your business is best in the world, and then the next day some little thing happens, and it's just, I think that's like the emotional roller coaster
Yeah.
of being a business owner, which
Yeah, yeah.
is, it keeps it exciting.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So what are your future plans or goals for your business?
So I kind of decided that I didn't want to scale volume wise. Like, I didn't want to try to take it from one crew to 5 crews and, build 100 projects a year. Um, I wanted to keep doing even more unique stuff. And by staying small, I'm able to kind of filter even more clients that really are looking for like something really cool. And I want to keep making more of the content stuff. So I just started on YouTube last year, and it was a ton of work.
Mhm.
But it was fun, and it's really gratifying to kind of help people out because there's certain things that I'm really bad at that other people helped me out with when I was kind of just getting started. And there's certain things that I feel like I am really good at, like the vision and the branding and the marketing and all that kind of stuff that I could really help people with. And
Mhm.
so that's what I'm trying to do with the content that we're making, is show people how to build decks and patios because it's really not that hard.
Mhm.
And I started out not knowing anything, so um, kind of trying to give back because I learned so much from YouTube and
Mhm.
Google and people helping me out. So That's definitely like a part of the business going forward, is just kind of, I'm not sure what it's going to lead to because it's very time consuming and there's
Yeah, yeah.
not a whole lot of payoff for it. But, I think if you just give away your knowledge and help people out, that eventually it'll come back to you in a bigger way. So we'll see on that.
Okay, cool. So what is, or would you say is one hidden pitfall with running a hardscape type business, design business that you see prevents people from succeeding in that area?
I think the biggest thing is, the bigger the project is, the bigger the stakes. Like if you estimate it incorrectly by 10% on $100,000 project, that's a pretty big deal. Whereas if you kind of build a lawn too low, you can kind of keep doing that lawn and
Hmm.
not even realize it. But if you do that on larger projects, it's going to hurt and it's going to like dissuade you from kind of trying to do big projects like that. So I think um, really getting your estimation down to a system that works for you, that kind of makes sense for you, that you can keep up with, is really important. And not doing that puts a lot of people out of business. And the other thing is just trying to be like everybody else, um, and not like finding your own little niche. So I feel like we found a nice little niche,
Hmm.
and the people that are looking for that, there's not a whole lot of competition, and you don't have to appeal to everybody. You just have to, if you appeal to a smaller group, but you're like really the only person that does that very specific thing,
Hmm.
you're going to have a lot more success. So, um, I think that, along with so many people just trying to grow the business and not really thinking about why they're growing the business, they just think that that's how you do it. That, after you have one crew, you try to build to two, and they spend so much money reinvesting back into the business that they're not really making the money that they should. And they really don't have like a good picture of where this business is headed and what is that end goal. And I think that's the same with hardscaping or lawn care. Um, it seems like most guys just want to go out and be the biggest.
Hmm.
They want to become like the behemoth in the
Yeah.
area. And I think there's a really good market for the more personable
Hmm.
experience that we provide on a hardscape project, which is a big investment. But I also think on the lawn care side,
Yeah.
some of these small time operators try everything that they can do with their marketing to look like, Brickman or
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever they are now, Brightview, when people really want like a personable experience with the person that maintains their lawn every week. I mean, that's like a really great selling point, where you could be a little bit more expensive because it's like, hey, I'm calling Sean, he's coming over to cut the lawn. Um, so I think people with their marketing just need to kind of reevaluate it and realize that by staying small, there's a lot of value in that you can get if you kind of turn the story the right way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. For me, it's the same. I see guys starting out lawn care and they're literally advertising in multiple cities and suburbs and stuff. And it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You got to drive all over town, spend all that
Yep.
time, gas and fuel and all that stuff. And like, think about how many clients you can actually even service. And
Yep.
when you start thinking about it like that, you start thinking, well, why not maximize those 30, 40, 50
Yeah.
clients versus just trying to blanket all these areas?
Yep.
There's a guy that I interviewed last year that a lot of the audience will know, Paul Camara. And he has a lawn care landscaping business where he just does the maintenance for 20 clients. That is
Yeah.
it. And he's had those 20 clients, for some of them, for 20 years.
Yeah.
And he does every aspect of their maintenance,
Yep.
the trees that like, and he takes it to this level that is like, you see his work and it's like, that's amazing, like the
Yeah.
quality. But he's bringing in, that's his niche, is that he brings in
Yep.
those long-term clients. He's not worried about being the biggest and all that. He's just worried about maintaining those personal relationships with those clients, and them
Yeah.
doing everything for him. With your hardscape and design business, if you were to do it all over again, what is one thing that you would do differently?
I think I've been asked this before, and I don't know that I would really change anything because, like, no matter what, it's gonna be really hard. There's gonna be you just like have to put the work in and sacrifice in the beginning. I think one thing that I would probably do more of is like jump in on like the video content and all that stuff right from the beginning, because I think that's a great way to like build trust with your clients.
Hmm.
Um, Before we even come out to the house, they feel like they know you. They've seen your videos, they've heard you speak, and it just makes them feel more comfortable. So I think that's one thing that I would probably change. But um, a lot of the things that went wrong and were really tough in the beginning really kind of set me up for where I am now.
Hmm.
So I don't know if I would change that, and I don't think anybody that says they got to a really successful business and they got the plan to it's really easy to get there and they're going to sell you a course on how to get there, they're probably lying, because the one thing that I tell people is it's just going to be hard. And once you get over that fact and you're going to do stuff wrong, that's going to be like your biggest boost, is just knowing, okay, this went wrong, but that's normal and that's okay. And that's what a lot of business owners go through. I think that's really important.
Okay. So what is your biggest frustration now that you've been doing the hardscaping and design, um, as opposed from the lawn care? Has there been something that you come across with this business that frustrates you?
There's definitely a lot of things that frustrate me that I'm not very good at. One being like the more stuff that we kind of start to do and incorporate in our projects, the more like tools and just like small equipment that we need in the trailer. And I'm just really bad at setting up systems and
Uh,
organization and all that kind of stuff. So that part kind of frustrates me, but the guys that I have working for me are better at that than I am. So I kind of like leave that to them. And when it gets too out of control, I say, all right, we're going to take the day and clean out the trailer. But really, with a growing business, there's just more, there's as much as I try to limit it, there's still more of that clerical back end kind of paperwork stuff. And that's the part that I hate about it. But I've tried to grow the business in a way that's limited. We work for less clients, just doing bigger projects. So um, but it's still a big part of the business, and it's something that I just have to like, bite the bullet and just do it because it's important and it needs to get done.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's in lawn care. Another thing that you see commonly is people with the paperwork and all that, the office stuff. I
Yeah.
knew a guy years ago that was just like, he was struggling financially and stuff, and it was because he hadn't even billed clients for months because he
Yeah.
hated sitting down to do
Yeah.
the billing and stuff. And he's like, but why you,
Yeah.
you gotta do it. Like,
Yeah.
what's the point of even going out there and doing it? He loved trimming hedges and he loved, being
Yeah.
outside and stuff, but it came to the paperwork and he was like literally like 3 or 4 months behind in billing customers. So I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
And
um
I think
what's Go ahead.
I think as much as possible, like trying to, we're not big enough where like I can hire out everything that I don't like. Like,
Hmm.
we don't really have enough paperwork. I just spend a lot of time complaining about it. There's really not that much, like enough to hire somebody to do that stuff. So, but I think it's important that, especially with lawn care, I mean, the invoicing and keeping track of all that stuff super important. And that's probably like one of the first people that you should hire if you're not good at it, before you look at expanding your crews. Really get that system figured out,
Hmm.
because that I hear that all the time, that people just haven't billed, and then the client gets a bill for 4 months worth of work.
Yeah, yeah,
They're like, I didn't realize you weren't billing me, and now I owe you $500.
yeah,
It's,
yeah, yeah,
and that's an easy way to upset people. So
yeah, absolutely.
um, yeah, that's kind of one of the main reasons that I got away from the lawn care stuff, because I
Yeah,
just didn't have that system
yeah,
down at
yeah.
all.
So, what's one resource that you use the most in building your business? It can be either online or training or, um,
I would say I would say Instagram,
okay.
because it's kind of twofold. We're getting a lot of clients through there now.
Okay.
Um, most of our clients tend to be people in like their 30s or early 40s. And those are the people that are on Instagram now. And it's a great outlet for our style of work with pictures. It's very visual. So that's been really great. And the other thing with Instagram is I've met so many awesome people through Instagram that are, in the same situation I'm in, trying to build a business. And everybody's so helpful. There's such a great community of contractors on there, landscapers, hardscapers, carpentry guys, that there's kind of this whole network that if I have an issue with something, I can reach out and say, hey, have you ever run into this? Like, what do you suggest I do? So probably Instagram the most, has just helped me on both sides of the business, figuring stuff out to run the business and helping us find really good clients. So that's probably my number one resource.
Okay, awesome. So you're kind of in a unique perspective of client or people that I've interviewed on the podcast, in the fact that most of my interviewees are lawn care business owners.
Yeah.
But most lawn care business owners will, at some point in time, think about transitioning to hardscape, whether it's just a thought that crosses their mind or they dabble in projects. It just seems to be a natural transition. You've been there, you've done that. You probably have the t-shirts for,
Yep.
for it.
Oh yeah.
What is one thing that people don't realize about running a design and hardscape business?
I think it's really just that you still have the same kind of problems and issues with no matter what you do, but just the bigger the project, the bigger the issues, the bigger the mistake, the more it hurts on a bigger project. But I think you just really have to figure out what you're trying to provide. It's going to be hard for a lawn care business, a small lawn care business, to just jump in to do the really high end residential, hardscaping, because the one advantage that I have is that that's all we market is, it looks like, because we specialize in that. So when people are willing to, spend 50 grand, they can kind of trust that it's going to turn out a certain way. So, but I think one thing that lawn care maintenance and landscape guys have as a huge advantage is on some of the simpler stuff where a homeowner doesn't necessarily want to deal with a new contractor. If you're already there mowing their lawn and you've figured that you want to expand into hardscaping, and just starting with small stuff like walkways and small patios and steps is a great way to start and learn. And you already have this big network of clients that likes your work, trusts you. You're already 60% of the way there. So I think that's a huge advantage that lawn care and landscape guys have over me, is that they're already there in front of the client. They already have a relationship. So I think the more services that you can provide them and provide a good service, the better you are and the happier the client will be, because they don't have to call 5 different contractors.
Okay. Yeah, great advice. So with yours, when you're talking there, brought up another question, and that is that you are obviously, when looking through your Instagram or watching your YouTube videos, you can see that you're very good at the design side of it, which is obviously a huge part of your
Yeah.
business. So how can guys that maybe aren't so strong in that sort of skill get into that part of the business? Is it something that you um, are born with, or do you have to, can you train yourself to get into design? Is there resources that you can use to learn those
Yeah,
types of things? Because I'm
for
sure,
sure.
just thinking about, when you think of an example like photography and
Yeah.
the 1/3 rule and all those, I'm sure there's sort of rules in design that
Yeah,
sort of work and don't work. So how can people get into that if they aren't as proficient in that side of it?
definitely. I think this is there's a couple different answers to this. I think that it is something that you can be naturally inclined towards. I think I kind of had a natural inclination towards the design stuff, but that by no means, it's just going to be maybe a little bit harder to do the design stuff, and it's going to take a little bit more work. But I had to kind of learn as I went, and my designs have gotten a lot better, and a lot of that's through designing it, then building it, and realizing things that you would have done differently or how it could have functioned better. And probably the biggest thing, the biggest tool from a design perspective and from a sales perspective is 3D design software. So,
Okay.
and that's something you can learn on our YouTube channel. I just did, we were just talking about an hour
Yeah,
long
yeah.
tutorial on real-time landscape architect. And the thing that's great about that, it doesn't just help you sell the project, which it's great for that. But, once I usually start with it sketched out on graph paper, and then once I transfer it to 3D, you basically have just built the project, and you can see things that aren't going to totally work out before you're on site building it. So it's really helped like iron out the kinks in a design because you're there, you see it, and I think it's just something that you have to be passionate about it because
Mhm.
it takes a lot of time. It's a lot of effort. But if you have that passion, you really want to get into it. That's the hardest thing. You know,
Yeah.
it's everything else can be learned, and most of it's just through trial and error.
Yeah, very cool. I was watching, like we talked about that video. I watched that tutorial video you did, and it seems like very intuitive software, fairly easy
It
to
is.
kind of
Yep.
use, and just it was so neat, like to see you sort of draw an outline of the house, and it showed the measurements there, and then
Yep.
it scaled up the walls, and then you're like, well, it's got to be a little bit taller, and then you just click, 18 feet, and it kind of and changing the
It's,
pitch of the roof, and you kind of
yep.
literally had like a little house there,
Yep.
matching what you're working on, and then you can build your decks and things and stuff around it, and it's very, very cool.
Definitely a very easy software to use. I used a different one before, and once I switched to this, I was like, wow, this is way more intuitive, way easier to use. And I think it's not a super expensive software. It's $400, which is a little bit pricey, but it's cheaper than a lot of other softwares. And I think it's good enough to sell whatever type of project you want. It
Hmm.
gives the clients a great idea of what it's going to look like. And the biggest thing starting out is it's going to help you design better because, you have something in your head, and it's happened to me a lot of times. I'm like, oh, this is going to be so cool. And then I draw it out and I'm like, okay, this doesn't work for 100 different reasons. But
Hmm.
if I didn't have this software, I'd be building it in the ground right now, and
Yeah, yeah.
that would be it. We're not going to tear it out. So that's what's been super helpful and is probably the biggest tool to becoming a better designer is
Hmm.
figuring out some sort of 3D software.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and it seems like a tedious task thinking about it, but like
Yeah.
watching that video, like literally within the first 2 minutes, you had this house built
Yeah.
on in 3D of
Yeah.
a representation of the house that you're working that project on.
Yeah.
So it was like very, very quick, and like you said, like you built the house, put the walls up, you needed to scale it higher. There's a setting, you just type in how high the
Yeah.
house is, and it scales up the height of the house. So it's very, very cool to see. Um, this next question is another one of my absolute favorites. And it is, what is your best piece of advice with those just starting out the business? Now, I want you to come at this from the point of view that this person asking you is somebody that you like, that and you only want to see the best for.
Yeah.
So, they come up to you, they're like, hey, Sean, I'm thinking about going into design and hardscaping. What can you tell me?
I think the biggest thing is finding something that sets yourself apart. So, because there's, the tools with social media and Facebook and local Facebook groups, there's a lot of ways to get your message out there. But if you don't have a unique message, it's just going to kind of get lost in the static out there. So I think figuring out something that makes your business different and then trying to leverage that through content creation or through, it could be through anything, mailers or door knockers or anything. But that's always been the biggest thing for me is just finding a way to separate ourselves from everybody else. And for us, it's like the creativity and the designs, But for somebody else, it could be, we're the company that calls back within 24 hours, or same day quotes, or next day quotes, or it could really be anything, but you just need something to kind of tell a different story than everybody else. And that's going to be the most helpful thing, but it's going to be something different for everybody.
Okay, great answer. So we talked about a bit about you're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. So how can people get a hold of you or follow you online if they want to check you out and your company out and all the projects that you're doing?
So on Instagram, it's just at Premier Outdoor. On Facebook, Premier Outdoor Living. You can find my personal page on there, Sean Collinsgru. But the biggest thing that I would really like everybody to check out is our YouTube channel, and that's Premier Outdoor Living LLC. And it's something I've put a ton of work into this past year, and it's a very slow growing, painstaking process, but we're having a lot of fun with it. And it makes the work day a lot more fun by filming it and having fun. So I'd appreciate it if everybody checked that out, and let me know what you think of it, and let us know what else we can make and what we can help you with.
Yeah, that's great. I was actually watching the channel, and the first thing that came to my head in watching your videos was like, this looks like something I'd see on HGTV. Like the way that you have like sort of like you're not actually like holding the camera yourself. Somebody's like showing, like filming you in certain
Yeah.
types, and then you've got some areas where you're having some fun with the guys and you're dubbing some music in there, and it was like, this is
Yeah.
like really entertaining to watch these projects, and you're learning at the same time. It's really, really cool.
I kind of
So yeah, go ahead.
realized when I started making the videos, that was like a goal for last year, was to do the vlog. And after like our first project, I'd made maybe like 7 or 8 videos. And then I kind of realized like, for the most part, we do a similar thing on every project. So we've kind of covered most of it in this
Yeah,
first job. So I realized like, it's really got to be like 60% entertainment, and then, just dropping in helpful little tips and tricks along the way. But, um, you know, we kind of do similar stuff on every project. So
yeah.
we've kind of geared it towards the entertainment part of it. So,
Try lawn
hopefully it's
cutting
fun to
YouTube
watch.
channel.
Yeah.
Try lawn cutting YouTube channel. The same stripes over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you very much, Sean, for coming onto the podcast. I really appreciate
I
it.
appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too.